Hey, what is going on, everyone? So for today's video, I wanted to experiment with the different art styles. So I ended up coming up with an idea of switching characters' art style up. Oh, and all the characters I chose are also from video games, cause why not? Actually, it was more like a coincidence that they were. But whatever, we're just gonna roll with it. So for the first two drawings, while these two characters are from more mature series, I attempted to make them in the Disney art style. Meanwhile, the other two, I decided to try and make them a more realistic, or at the very least, semi-realistic. Alright, enough of me rambling, let's just get on with the vid. So for the first person, I actually drew the female protagonist in Fallout 4 in the Disney art style. Surprisingly, this one was a bit of a pain, and honestly, it's my least favorite. This one just made me always have to double check if the anatomy is right, and even now, I still don't know if it is. It just looks as though her head is just way too dang massive. But also at the same time, I don't know, maybe that's normal. I also tried to draw dog meat just to see if I could also pull that off in the art style. I don't think I did. I feel as though it could be improved. So this is the final piece. It was alright. Really the only problems I had with it were with the drawing were just the anatomy and then maybe the colors. Other than that though, I'd say everything else was pretty fine. For the next character, I actually chose Kratos for this. This one was also a bit of a problem just because of the anatomy again, mostly because I wasn't sure how big and massive and muscular I should make the dude, since he's pretty much all muscle. And also the eyes were pretty difficult because, well, yeah, I gave him the classic Disney eyes. Those don't really make me as intimidated as he normally would. So that was a bit of a bother for the most part. I didn't change them a lot, just kept them the same mostly. I figured if I changed them drastically, well then it wouldn't really be that Disney art style, would it? And then that's kind of what I'm going for here. Coloring him was pretty easy as well, considering that, you know, he's all white and a little bit of red. Didn't go super detailed with the clothes since I figured I should just focus more on the face if anything. So here's the final doodle. This was pretty simple actually, and I had some fun figuring out how I could turn it into a more family-friendly character. Okay, so for these two, I actually made them in the more semi-realistic art style, so let's see how terrible I did with them. For the third character, I chose Sherb from Animal Crossing to draw. I chose him since he was one of my favorites, and I wanted to draw someone that hasn't, as far as I know, have been drawn already in a semi-realistic art style, who's probably the easiest to draw since I just decided to not make him a bit too realistic and instead give him the proportions he already had. So I just kept him with that big head. The hair was also pretty simple. If anything, for this one I could have worked on was probably to add detail in the horns and the shirt, and maybe the eyes a bit. I tried to use the Detective Pikachu movie as reference since they were able to turn cartoony characters into realistic and aesthetically pleasing to the eye and not horrifying monsters. So here's this one. I'd like to see what you guys think. I wouldn't say it's terrifying. Maybe just a little. For the final character, I actually chose Roy. I'm actually a huge Fire Emblem fan. At first, I was gonna actually choose someone like Link, but then I figured some people already have probably drew him in a more realistic art style and probably even did better than I could. So I just went with someone who was a little less popular. I based his design on the Smash series, just not the original game since this one I felt was a bit more detailed. I might as well just use this one for reference. I had probably the most fun with this one. I'd say the biggest changes I did was that since this was supposed to be as realistic as possible, or semi-realistic, I made him more of a ginger, So I toned down the saturation of his hair, because originally it was like really red. And so I gave him like the classic ginger hair color, and then I also gave him like some subtle freckles. I don't know if you'll even be able to notice them in the final drawing. I also redesigned his hair to be a bit more realistic. I'd say that took the longest, with all the details such as the flyaways and the highlights and the shadows in it. And this is the final piece. This is my favorite out of all the doodles. The only thing I would say that I guess I could improve on are probably the lips, because they just seem a bit off. I don't know if it's just me. It just seems that way. I don't know. I'll let the critics say whatever. And those are all the pieces. Let me know what you guys think of them. Yeah, this was actually pretty fun. I enjoyed making this video. Helped me experiment with different art styles and trying to turn characters into, well, something different. But that's all for today's video. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and whatever else they normally say. Really enjoyed making this one. This was pretty fun. Hope you check out any of my other crappy videos if this made you interested in my doodles. I don't really have anything else to say, so bye.